how important it is. This is a huge issue that, again, if it happened at Northwestern, it can happen anywhere.
It's precisely true, and that's why it's so insidious. This isn't the only hazing story this summer. We saw Harvard hockey just this past week, this women's hockey team. And it's not just as easy as firing a coach while there's legal surely about to happen. It's about ridding a culture. Courtney, I'll give you the last word.
Northwestern is a place that is postured. It is above the meathead ideology that is so often found in football locker rooms. As Bill brought up, there are stringent academic requirements for admission within athletics, too, was supposed to hold them to a higher degree. And it's very clear that they've failed in maintaining
I think of it like this. You can't separate the college part of college sports, right? Just put this happening in a maths class or in a psychology class. It's an absolute no. So that's why it also should be an absolute no in all college, high school sports. We must acknowledge the Daily Northwestern story reported by Nicole Marcus, Alice Brown, Cole Reynolds, and Divya Bardwaj of the Daily Northwestern.
Congrats to them.
Victor Wembanyama's summer break. Spurs say he'll take time off from gameplay and public sessions as he's been playing and doing the things required as far as availability non-stop since the start of his French season. His 2 summer league games came with a microscope on a laser inside a magnifying glass and a particle accelerator. Those are some of his stats. Bill, were 2 games enough for you, and what was your takeaway from those?
My first takeaway was that he played 2 games in 3 days. We won't see that again the rest of the season. Pop's going to keep him under lock and key for most of the season. He'll be load managed. But I thought it was great. He finished the way I thought he would finish, 27 and 14. He had first game jitters. Second game, he was great, played great defense. He had a dunk over a guy like a 4 foot away from the basket. He dunked the ball. I mean, this guy's like a freak of nature.
All right, so your takeaway is both that he's got a load management season ahead of him. Before he's even played a game, he needs some load management, okay? And that he lived it up to your expectation. Cronin, how about you?
2 games is more than enough. We already saw Scoot Henderson get injured in his first game. Amen Thompson's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks with an ankle injury. Victor Wembanyama said that when he decided he wasn't going to play for France in the FIBA World Cup, that he wants to dedicate this summer to focusing on preparing his body for the many events that he has coming up over the next couple of years. Well, getting ready for the regular season instead of playing in games that for him are effectively meaningless. He's not trying to make the roster. He's already going to be on the team. It's time to shut it down and make sure that he can actually get his body ready.
And your overall review of those 2 games, the 2 of 9 from 3 in the first game, the 27 points in the second game?
I appreciated the bounce back in game 2.
Okay. David Dennis Jr.?
This is everything you can hope for from Wemby. The first game, yes, there were jitters, and part of it was just him missing a bunch of shots that he usually makes. But even then, he had 5 blocks. So even in his worst game, he's Rudy Gobert defensively, and he came back on the second game and was unstoppable. They couldn't do anything about him. That putback dunk that he had next game is nobody else in the league can do that. This is the Wemby experience.
But you said he missed a lot of shots in the first game he usually makes. This was the first game. We don't know what he usually makes, right? The stats, he shot 27% from 3 in France. Go ahead, Gutierrez.
We've seen enough to know what he has to work on, right? That first game, I think, was more of a result of a guy who really wasn't ready to get back on the court. And he talked about this. So much of his days leading up to this have not been about basketball. And I think that's what he wants to get back to, sort of his safety room, his basketball court, really work on things, really work on the Spurs system. And I think that second game was enough to make him feel good about his summer league experience, and now he moves on.
So the hype still with all of you people. You're not ticking it down to dial after those 2 games.
He's still a prospect.
We'll move on.
He's still got a lot to work on.
Chris
but the
Paul,
potential
when
is there.
asked about coming off the bench. Here we go.
You coaching?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what the situation is going to be yet. Me and Steve have talked or whatnot, but that ain't something that you be like, what up, man? Where you starting? You coming off? You know what I mean? So I think we'll figure all that stuff out in camp.
All right, so buy or sell Paul being comfortable coming off the bench, and buy or sell this being a problem for Golden State down the road, Israel.
I'm selling this being the time where Paul has to answer that question. I'm in agreement with him. You've got a team with Steph Curry on it, with Steve Kerr as the head coach. He might potentially find a way to utilize Chris Paul in the starting lineup. He might consider benching Klay Thompson instead and using him with the second unit, because the idea of using Chris Paul with the younger, faster second unit, how much more sense does that make than him finding a way to work with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Wiggins, and the other starters? So it's not the time for him to answer that if Steve Kerr hasn't addressed it.
Bill Flashke, how'd you hear it?
I thought Chris Paul was beyond all this. I was wrong. He's still antagonistic. He's still stirring it up. This is not going to work. If he thinks he needs to start, this is not going to work. I predict right now. Save this take. By the middle of the season, they will trade him. He will not work in Golden State with this attitude. That's not a hot take. That's a real take.
That's not a hot take,
By
though.
the end of the season,
You're calling it over.
No.
Phil,
Mid-season,
I
they'll trade
appreciate how much you think things can be over before they even start. But here we are in July. First media availability,
Mid-season.
basically, and you're saying it's over.
mid-season, they're going to trade him.
Courtney Cronin, how do you see it?
Didn't see that coming. What does he think? Stephen Curry's going to come off the bench and it's not him? I mean, I doubt he's going to be a primary starter, but he will end up starting some games. It's just a matter now of telling somebody a role that they haven't ever played before. He's clearly bristling at it because it's not something he wants to necessarily do, but they brought him there to command the second unit, to help, obviously, how successful of a pick-and-roll player he's been. They need that from him, but it's not going to be with the starters predominantly.
David Dennis Jr.
Everything's fine. Chris Paul, who, by the way, I've never said a bad word about, knows that he is coming off the bench. The Warriors starting five is the best starting five in the league. They are not breaking that up. What Chris Paul is there for is to raise the ceiling of Moody and Kuminga in that second lineup, and hopefully maybe even close some games. That's the important part of where he's going to be in that game.
Does Chris Paul know that?
He
That's
knows
the
that.
question.
He absolutely knows it.
Flashke, it's
He
over.
doesn't know that.
David Dennis Jr., you walked into a mute there. Cronin, Gutierrez. That's our showdown next. I have a list of 25 greatest All-Star moments. I love the All-Star game. Don't have a chance to show you all now. This one's before my birth, of course, but I just know it from history. But every All-Star game gets remembered for something. So as you make your who you got pick, American or national, let me ask you this. What's the memory we'll all be remembering tomorrow from tonight? Courtney, around the horn to you.
The Angels have exactly 3 weeks to figure out whether they're going to trade Shohei Ohtani. I'm excited to see what these recruiting pitches are like tonight, Tony. This is going to be fun to see where he's playing next year.
You think we're going to have some mic'd up players pitching for Ohtani? Okay. And Israel?
There's two things I'm looking for. I'm going to remember what time I get to bed tonight. I want a tidy game. I need that pitch clock to really do its job. And then I'm looking for celebrations on home runs in the dugouts. I want those to be otherworldly.
I'll give you that. But pitch clock, this is the game you kind of want to let the moment last if you're a player in the batter's box. Don't rush them along. We'll move on.
No time for this.
Wimbledon. Chris Eubanks, the American, number 43 in the world, and he's on a heater, advancing to the quarterfinals after taking out Stefanos Tsitsipas in 5 sets. It's the first time he's ever made the second week of a major. Israel, breath of fresh air for American tennis, or something more here with Eubanks?
It'll be something more if he wins one more, because he's got Daniil Medvedev in the next round, number 3 overall. And Tsitsipas has kind of lost a couple of head scratchers in the past, but man, is he fun to watch. So long, so athletic, gets to everything. Love watching him.
The United States has waited 20-plus years to get a men's Grand Slam champion, and with 3 of their top 15 out, Eubanks, who most of us didn't know who he was yesterday, gives them the best chance to get there.
Courtney Cronin, please, the time is yours.
Thank you. My grandmother passed away at the age of 102 years old peacefully in her home on Saturday evening. She was a huge fan of Around the Horn. Last Thursday, she got to see me win the show. It was her last show. She made it appointment viewing every time I was on. It means the world to me that I got to share this with her in her later years. I will miss you every day, and I can't wait to see you on the 19th tee in heaven eventually.
We love you, Courtney. And your grandma, Janice Bruce, saw so many things in an incredible 102 years. Just think of that. But I will tell you this. She will never have been more proud of anything in her life, I'm sure, than seeing her granddaughter succeed like this. See you tomorrow.